Welcome to a brand new week on Breakfast Central. Thank you very much for joining us this Monday morning as we, of course, take closer steps to the end of the month of March. I am Osarogie Ogbonmwan.
And I am Emodi. We have some good news. Certainly, the kidnapped schoolgirls in Kaduna State have been released. There is, of course, some difference regarding their numbers or different reports regarding their numbers. We'll be talking about this much later. I'll be opening the phone lines when we review the papers to allow you call in and share your thoughts. We have Mazino Appeal joining us for Breakfast Central. Good morning, Mazino. How are you?
Good morning, Emodi. Good to be back here for a Monday. Final week in March. Hey, let's see this one end well.
I like the sound of final week. Final week sounds like alerts and salaries.
Well, hey, depends.
Talk to us, Mazino. What would you say has been like, so maybe the biggest story that has stood out for you over the course of the week?
Well, you mentioned it already. The number 137 seems to be on everybody's lips this morning, all through the weekend, talking about the Russia instance and, of course, also the northern Nigeria instance. There's plenty to unpack in that story regarding exactly what to expect now and those disparities in numbers. We'll tell that story inside of the news, and maybe when we get back, we'll talk more about it.
All right.
Absolutely. I keep saying that I wish that we had, much more clarity when some of these stories break. The president, of course, did put out a message on his social media handles yesterday saying, that they had been released. A couple of hours later, some people said, that they, not all of them were released. There's still about 150 of them still in captivity. And of course, remember that there's a lot of people, I think 16 people that were kidnapped in Kaduna that are still in captivity. The women that were taken from the IDP camp, so there's still a couple of people that I believe that we still need to remember, and not get carried away with other Nigerian stories and, forget that they are there. A couple of hours ago also, I actually woke up this morning to see the story about is it Binance or Binance? I don't know how it's pronounced.
Binance.
Executive, who has reportedly escaped from custody. It's currently one of the biggest stories or trending stories on social media. He apparently escaped sometime yesterday. And according to reports, has fled the country. They're, still finding out more details about this, which, would be very embarrassing if true. But I'm hoping that the rest of today would, of course, bring forth, more of these details and we'll know what really happened.
Hello and welcome. This is Breakfast Headlines for News Central. My name is Mazino Appeal. Now we begin the news in West Africa, where members of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, and the Non-Academic Staff Union, NASU, on Sunday ended their 7-day warning strike. In a circular to branch chairmen at public universities all over the country, SANU President Mohammed Ibrahim directed SANU and NASU members to resume work from Monday, March 25th, 2024. To security matters now, residents in Kaduna State await the arrival of the students reportedly taken to have been freed from captivity. Relief washed over the state on Sunday after the military announced the successful rescue of 137 out of 287 students abducted from LEA Primary School and Government Secondary School, Kuriga, in Chikun local government area on March 7th. In a press statement, the Nigerian Army disclosed that the rescued students, 76 female and 61 males, were found in neighbouring Zamfara State in a pre-dawn operation conducted in collaboration with local authorities and government agencies. In the meantime, ahead of President Bola Tinubu's 72nd birthday anniversary on Friday, March 29th, 2024, the presidency has urged well-wishers and friends of Nigeria's first individual not to organize any form of celebratory event or place adverts in the media. In a statement on Sunday, the special advisor to the president on information and strategy, Bayo Onanuga, attributed the president's decision to the challenging times in the country. And no fewer than 4 people have lost their lives in a stampede in Bauchi State, northeast Nigeria, during an arms-giving exercise. The stampede occurred at the Shafa Holding Company PLC headquarters along Jos Road on Sunday. The news continues in West Africa, where Senegal have begun counting votes in Sunday's presidential elections as the two main rivals said they were confident of winning a poll that followed several years of unrest and a political crisis. The winner will be tasked with steering Senegal, viewed as a beacon of democracy in Coupe-Heath, West Africa, out of its recent troubles and managing revenues from oil and gas reserves that are shortly to start production. Meanwhile, Senegal's outgoing President Macky Sall on Sunday warned presidential candidates against making premature election victory claims. Sall, after voting with his wife in the center-western town of Fatick, said it is neither up to a candidate nor to a political camp to proclaim victory or results. And in Central Africa, authorities in Chad said on Sunday that they had barred 10 candidates, including 2 fierce opponents of the military regime, from standing in the presidential election on May 6. The Constitutional Court said the candidates' applications had been rejected because they include irregularities. In southern part of Africa, Malawi's President Lazarus Chakwera has appealed for $200 million in food aid this weekend, saying millions of citizens faced starvation due to a drought linked to the El Nino weather phenomenon. Chakwera has declared a state of natural disaster in 23 of the 28 districts of the southern African country, following a government assessment of the damage to farmland caused by El Nino. And that's all at this hour. I'm Mazino Peel. Back to you guys, Osarogie and Olive.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mazino, for bringing us breakfast headlines. So many stories there. From Nigeria to outside Nigeria. Interesting to see the turn of events in Senegal with the elections. It'll be great to see who the winner eventually is. It would seem, though, from what we're seeing, there's lots of celebrations for Jamaica. It would seem that number of people are actually celebrating him, which is why the outgoing president will come out to warn and say that they should not announce premature elections. But Senegal has been through a lot, and we're hoping that this would be an election that would actually be free, fair, and represent the true desires of the people of Senegal.
Well, yes, indeed. With everything that's happening inside of Africa, with all the coups and all, this is one that everybody's looking forward to see how it goes and make sure that perhaps, maybe we will definitely have democracy still stand as our tenets in Africa. Well, let's hope for good.
Yeah, all right. Also to mention, you shared a story about a stampede in Bauchi that led to, I think it was 5 people who lost their lives.
4, I think.
4. 4 people.
Yeah.
I'm just, remembering that it also happened in Nasarawa, pretty much with the same idea, sharing palliatives or bags of rice or food stuff. And I don't know that there was any, investigations, compensation or anything. I think we really just moved on after it happened in Nasarawa. It has once again happened in Bauchi. And, again, very, very sad way to lose your life. Because, of course, of the level of poverty, that you've now been reduced to having to, go take palliative measures from the government and lose your life in that process. It did happen at some other, I think was the customs or so that were sharing bags of rice or so.
Yes, it was customs. The number
so that
of
also
Nigerians
happened.
died,
So,
yes.
so this is like the 3rd time it's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
In 2024 alone.
Well, you see, Osarogie, the thing with these kind of situations is the fact that we don't have any information from after. The same situation we have with 137 abducted who have been released. Exactly what happened? Was it a case of ransom being paid or not? Was it a case of, if you compare that to the Russian instance where the number is actually the same, we have definite information regarding how these people have been apprehended. They've been charged to court. 4 suspects, they say. But in Nigeria here, they're released. That's it. Nothing else. What happened? We don't know. Anybody paying the price for this corruption, or rather this instance? No, we don't know the definite specific way of things. It helps to note because it gives us more courage in the government knowing that they've got our back.
Well, maybe they would say to us that the reason they're not disclosing that is for national security because they're not keen on sharing much information. That's the easiest route to take. But yes, it's important that we have information about this. It's important that investigation is even being done regarding the stampede. All of this just reveal the fact that we're in a really dire situation as a nation. If we're having stampedes because people are dying because they're trying to give arms to them, it shows that there is hunger. I witnessed one that could have led to a stampede yesterday on my way to church. Somebody at, I think it was at Jakonde roundabout. I can't remember the exact roundabout. It was on Lekki Expressway. The person was throwing money into the air. And you need to see the way people were falling over themselves. I made a video clip towards the end, throwing bundles of money into the air. And people were just, of course, throwing themselves behind that. I just began to worry about the state of our nation. First of all, we're just in a really, it's a reflection of how poor we are. But also a reflection of the fact that people will throw their lives on the line just to be able to survive. This was happening at a traffic light. The traffic light had even turned green and people didn't care. They were just throwing themselves there. There's so much that really needs to be done for assassination.
I should also mention, and this is going back to the school kidnap, that we're having this conversation, and it's important to also mention that the Nigerian government failed these children. I keep saying that there's nothing to celebrate when we see these things happen. The dollar going from 1,600 to 1,400. There's nothing to celebrate there. That dozens of these kids have been rescued. There's nothing to celebrate about it, with the fact that they were even kidnapped in the first place.
Yeah.
Look at those children. Look at their faces. Like, they don't deserve that in the first place. And then look at the pictures of the school that they were even kidnapped from. I mean, is that a school where human beings should go to? Are those buildings where you keep human beings?
In furtherance to that, the government has initiated a school corps program, which I think I can't remember the corps that's supposed to help chaperone schools in the north, but that's what's on the ground now. But it all seems so reactionary, however.
Exactly, because this is not the first time we've had a kidnap.
Exactly.
This is not the first time we've had a kidnap in Kaduna. So what exactly is being done? How can we be proactive as a nation to prevent these incidences from happening? In March alone, we've had over 500 Nigerians in Kaduna kidnapped. So how exactly can we prevent this from happening? I think these are the conversations we need to have, but I'm sure we'll delve into this much later during our top stories. Thank you, Mazino, for joining us.
Thank you very much, Olive. Thank you, Osarogie.
See you at 9 a.m. All right, we'll get into the meat of today's conversations, looking at our top stories right after this break. But remember that you can engage with us on social media, News Central TV on all platforms. And remember that you can call in when we review the papers. Stay with us. Welcome back. Medical professionals in Nigeria have voiced their dissatisfaction with the deteriorating quality of the medical field, which they say makes it increasingly harder for them to provide basic healthcare services in the face of enormous demand. Due to declining healthcare services and unmotivated medical professionals, more affluent Nigerians have been forced to turn to medical tourism. News Central's Adeshewa Odushoga reports.
The Nigerian Medical Association claims that because of the poor quality of the nation's hospitals, Nigerians spend roughly $1 billion a year on medical tourism. The majority of its people tend to receive quality medical care in foreign facilities, which hurts both the nation's healthcare system and the overall economy. The situation got even worse when top, brilliant, and experienced medical workers migrated to developed countries, while many waited in line to leave.
We have a total breakdown of existing facilities. I will allude to the fact that there might be some centers that are still trying, but all in all, most of the centers that should be top notch are nowhere to be found. For example, let's take an example like someone has an accident and it's a CT scan. Only few centers, I'm talking about federal centers now, and government centers, only few centers can actually boast that they have a functioning CT and MRI. Now, emphasis on functioning, because a lot of centers might have CT scans and MRI, but they are not functional because of poor maintenance over the years.
Medical experts in the country have attributed this to inadequacy of those running the affairs of the country, many of whom are yet to express value for the homegrown medical centers, which have gone years without investment.
You have a lot of health sectors clamoring all across the states, clamoring that they need this to be fixed. In terms of our turnaround maintenance is very poor. In terms of trying to what we call technological innovation and advancement is also declining. And because some of these individuals know that some of the Nigerian, hospitals might not have the wherewithal to, attend to whatever that is that they are suffering from, they will prefer to go outside and seek the health, where they know that the government in that particular industry have tried to do what? To invest in the health.
Numerous medical professionals who have spoken with News Central TV conveyed how painful it was to see their peers pack their bags and depart the nation with no intention of returning to improve the deteriorating situation of the healthcare system. They are now pleading with the government to boost funding to facilitate the sector's expansion, particularly in light of the nation's escalating pandemics and diseases. In Lagos, for News Central, Adeshewa Odushoga.
Thank you, Adeshewa, for that very detailed report. There's so much that needs to be considered when we're looking at the medical field and looking at the governance of medical tourism. Also looking at the fact that right here in Nigeria, there's a lot of work that needs to be done with regards equipping our healthcare, because there's so many things, so many basic things that Nigerians don't really need to travel abroad for. That unfortunately we now have to travel abroad for, because we can't guarantee. Even if you look at it from the top, it's even evident at the top. Our president, the outgoing president, will travel for dental appointments, to go and check his ears. I mean, I should think that these are things that can be done here in Nigeria if we had adequately funded and properly equipped health facilities, so they don't need to travel abroad. But now people travel abroad for the smallest things to the biggest things, you know, very, very similarly basic things. They would rather go abroad to get healthcare for.
Yeah, I mean, that's for those who can afford it.
Exactly.
You know, and of course, you know, with the way the economy is looking currently, many people will no longer be able to afford that. You know, I remember that in 2000 and late 2000, maybe 2008, you know, 2010, that era, 2012, there were still loads of people who, when, you know, after getting married, they planned towards giving birth abroad. It used to be an achievable thing. You know, £3,000, you know, $5,000, you know, and all of that. You know, you find a family member abroad, you know, and you easily get it done. But today, I mean, it's not affordable for a lot of people.
It is not affordable for many people.
You know, UBTH, you know, and any of those hospitals will be fine for that baby. And then you can plan whatever passport they can get later in life. But that's just on the side. So first of all, yes, a lot of people can't afford it. But there's a reason, first of all, that there is a seeming reduction in quality of healthcare that we're getting. It's also because there's many of these medical professionals that have left the country. And so the quality of healthcare that you even get in the hospitals has dropped, arguably. And I don't think anybody would be able to argue that. Nurses have left, doctors have left, medical laboratory scientists rather have left, optometrists have left, dentists have left. So what you currently have are those who decided that they were going to stay back or who have not been able to leave
exactly
yet.
Those who are planning to leave is what we have left.
You know, and of course, you know, the new graduates who are still, you know, thinking about ways with which they can leave. So there is an obvious reduction in the quality that you will find in the average, you know, Nigerian hospital. States have, on different levels, you know, in different parts of the country, you know, have their investments in primary health care, which, you know, you would always see as a constant somehow, some way. You know, what you may not see, you know, with each administration is an improvement in that primary health care quality. They've left it on a certain level. Even here in Lagos State, you know, it's a certain level that, you know, is accessible to, you know, everyone. But there would always be a call to continuously improve the quality of primary health care. You know, and that's why I, you know, said last week, you know, when I was talking about KPIs, both on the federal level and on the state level, the ministers and the commissioners for health, you know, do they get into those places with KPIs saying that this is where we are with primary health care delivery in Nigeria, this is where we are with maternal and infant mortality in Nigeria, or in our states rather, and this is where we want to leave. This is the level of improvement we want to give. So
I agree with
there's
you.
it's a plethora of issues.
And I'm glad that you've mentioned maternal and infant mortality, because what I realized back in the day, the reason a number of people travel to have their baby abroad was primarily because they wanted another passport. Today is not even because of that. People want to be able to say that they and their children or they and their child survived. People don't want to lose their lives, because what we're seeing is in 2024, when we should be having a highly reduced maternal and infant mortality rate, it's not there. There's still people that are dying while having a baby. And that shouldn't be the case right now. If you check around the world in other countries, in fact, outside Nigeria, what's obtainable is that women decide, okay, I want to have my baby. When is my due date? My due date is sometime in May. Okay, let's pick a date. I'll go there. On the date you go, we'll have an elective cesarean section, bring out the baby. After a short while, mother and baby go home. Fine. In Nigeria, people are using prayer to back up their ability to go through a cesarean section or even go through vaginal delivery. And these are conversations that we shouldn't be having in 2024. Unfortunately, it's our reality.
I mean, I think you can still have, an elective date, here in Nigeria.
No, but
It's
like
not-
the safety, it's a risk.
I agree.
Having a child in Nigeria.
I
now.
agree, but it's not, and I also do not want us to paint a picture of, a very a gloomy picture of what it is, with regards to maternal mortality. I'm sure that there are states or there are countries, across the continent that have it worse. There's a lot of successful births, in Nigeria every single day. But yes, there are still those safety concerns, that would not be ignored completely. I'm, beyond maternal and infant mortality, the whole healthcare space needs, an upgrade, needs better investment, needs, more government, interest in it generally. The facilities, the training of personnel, the management of, of structures and all of that. And that's why, you see the emergence of private hospitals coming in to take the place where government.
And unfortunately, it's not like the private hospitals are much better, to be honest. The private hospitals are still killing people. And this is away from maternal mortality, even though I still don't agree. I think it's a gloomy picture with maternal and infant mortality. But I think that's a conversation for another day. Private hospitals themselves, the number of them are not even much better than the government hospitals. The number of private hospitals that people go to, in fact, they have dubbed them, I don't want to call their name on national TV, but there are a number of private hospitals that you hear that if you go there, just be praying that you're able to come out
poor
safe.
quality
So yes, I completely think that we need a total and a complete overhaul of our healthcare system.
I agree. I just don't. I don't like to have, like, if it's, it's a government conversation. My speech is, always a certain way. But with regards, the healthcare industry, I always still like to, mention that, or give kudos to those who are still putting in the work that must be done. In on different levels,
So
on the government level, on the state level, local government level, primary healthcare level, and all of that.
when I'm
There are
criticizing
people
them,
who are still giving
it's
a
not
lot.
necessarily a criticism of the personnel, as opposed to the fact that the structures that exist don't allow them to do their work in the best possible, to the best capacity. So a number of them are very well trained, have the required, they have the required training to be able to deliver maximum healthcare. But they are functioning in places where they don't have what they need to be able to execute healthcare. Somebody was sharing a story, I think it was even on this show, of having a baby at the ICU. They had a pre-EMI, and he literally had to carry the child with oxygen and run to another building. Like, the things that we hear when these doctors share their story is unbelievable. The doctors know what they are doing. When they go abroad, they excel. But they don't have the facilities to be able to do their job here in Nigeria.
I agree. So once again, there is, a dearth in facilities and investment into the healthcare that must be fixed. It's almost the only way to keep these professionals here in Nigeria and to give Nigerians some assurance of the quality of healthcare that they would receive when they go to, hospitals. Before we even get to the part where we start talking about the NHIS, and how much, health insurance that Nigerians need, including the elderly. Before we get to that, that's a totally different conversation entirely, that must also be fixed. But in the interim, the core is, to provide some level of healthcare that Nigerians, can assess, and hopefully stop medical tourism. Hopefully also reduce the number of doctors and medical professionals that continue to leave Nigeria every single day and every single week, going to countries in the Middle East and in Europe and in America and everywhere.
India.
Everywhere.
Right.
Just disappearing.
All right. Let's move away from conversations about healthcare in Nigeria to Senegal, where vote counting is underway after a delayed presidential election that many hope will bring change to the West African country after a turbulent political period that has triggered violent anti-government protests and boosted support for the opposition. More than 7 million of the country's over 17 million people were registered to vote in yesterday's election.
19 contenders are vying to replace President Macky Sall, stepping down after a second term marred by unrest over the prosecution of opposition leader Usman Sonko and concerns that Sall wanted to extend his mandate past the constitutional limit. Now, this is the first time in Senegal's history that the incumbent is not on the ballot after Sall's ruling coalition picked former Prime Minister Amadou Ba, a 62-year-old, as its candidate.
Sonko, who had been in jail until recently, was disqualified from the race over a defamation conviction, but backed by the co-creator of his now dissolved party, PASTEF party. Basiru Diomaye, who was also detained almost a year ago on charges bordering on defamation and contempt of court. That's the update that we have regarding Senegal. And it's quite interesting to see what's going on. A number of Senegalese people criticized Macky Sall's time in office, talking about how he sort of tried to twist the arm of government in his favor, tried to twist their democracy in his favor. Now, the elections, he tried initially to shift the elections till December. Strong criticism came from that. And then he announced these elections that are ongoing, or that just happened. He announced it, I think, 3 weeks before, such that he didn't have enough time to plan for the elections. What this then meant, according to some people, would be that he was equipping his party. He was equipping his candidate, Amadou Ba, to be adequately prepared, because a number of them were not as prepared as they should have been for these elections. So they feel, just like we feel here in Nigeria in some states, that this is a continuation of Macky Sall's time in office by putting in Amadou Ba. Of all the numerous political representatives, we have actually this race is really between the two of them, between Amadou Ba and between Diomaye. But we have a video. Let's take a look, and we'll come back. We'll talk about this some more.
Aliou Mamadou Dia, Bassirou Diomaye Faye.
And of course, early counting and results so far, even if it has not been concluded yet, show that the major contender, might be winning the elections so far. Of course, we'll have to wait until the elections is concluded. Votes have been counted across the country before a winner is declared. Yes.
But the people in Senegal are not even having it. A number of them have already gone into the streets to start celebrating. Their celebrations have started in front of Ousmane Sonko's house. A number of them are celebrating because, of course, like we mentioned earlier, Ousmane Sonko and Diomaye Faye were in the same party. Diomaye Faye was Secretary General of PASTEF, and together, obviously, the supporters of Ousmane Sonko automatically translate to Diomaye Faye. So yeah, they have started celebrating. The numbers are looking like he's in the lead. The outgoing president thinks that at the most there will be a runoff. He doesn't think that Diomaye Faye is in the lead. He's obviously not going to take this lightly. But what we've seen is that the other contenders as well have started to release congratulatory messages, congratulating Diomaye Faye. So if the people who are contending against him in the elections, about 5 of them or thereabouts, have already released congratulatory messages saying congratulations to the incoming president, I mean, that definitely points to something.
I mean, yeah, but it's still important to wait until results are totally counted before a winner is officially declared. But it will tell a very interesting story and also paint a picture of what the people really felt about President Macky Sall's time as president, and the emergence of a new breed of leaders. Once again across Africa. It did happen here in Nigeria in our last elections. It's happened also in about 2 other places in the last 1 year, that have had elections. The Senegal, seems to be the latest. It's a 44-year-old, which makes him one of the youngest. If he wins, will be one of the youngest presidents across the continent. So it's interesting, seeing how things have turned out so far. We would hold on, see what the results eventually what the results are eventually declared, and of course see what happens next. But for now, it looks like a very, very interesting story.
Yeah.
Mostly also because of the way that things played out, with the attempt to postpone the elections to later in the year. When our guests join us, I'd like to also find out, what then made President Macky Sall have a rethink and push and let the elections happen as planned at first. So we'll see. Again, it sheds some light, into the thoughts of the Senegalese people on President Macky Sall's rule and how they also want better and want different from the norm.
Absolutely.
They've
I mean, they
experienced.
do. It will be interesting also that if Jomai does win the election, I believe, I want to believe you mentioned this as well, him being like one of the youngest
Yeah.
presidents that we'll have.
44 years.
44 years. I think his birthday was either yesterday or today. And that would be such a great way for, for him to celebrate his birthday. But more importantly, like we always say, may the will of the people be the will that's represented at the ballot. May they not be cheated out of the democracy that they deserve. And we, of course, will be bringing updates on the Senegal elections. So we're going to break. And when we come back, we'll be looking at more stories this morning.
Welcome once again. Residents in Kaduna State today await the arrival of the students reported to have been freed from their captives on Sunday. This follows the military's announcement of the successful rescue of the 137 out of the 287 students abducted from LEA Primary School and Government Secondary School, Kuriga, in Chikun local government area on the 7th of March.
The development comes amidst ongoing efforts to locate other hostages and dismantle criminal networks operating in the region. However, authorities are yet to clarify the fate of any remaining students still in captivity. We had our correspondent Marvelous Ogbonmwan to talk to us some more about this. And we also had the governor of Kaduna State, Ubasani, who had a few words to share. Let's take a look.
Anticipating that these school children that were rescued will be brought to the Kaduna State Government House, and we were on ground as early as 0800 hours, that's 8 a.m. this morning. And just about a few minutes ago, we were told that the children might not be coming back as planned today because of the distance from Zamfara to Kaduna State here, which is roughly 5 hours maximum on just coming back. So because around 10:11, a team was sent to Zamfara to go and bring back these school children. And of course, so probably it will take 10 hours for that team to get to Zamfara and bring these children back. So we were told to go back and come in the morning so that before these children will come back, they would have received medical care, freshen up and all the rest, and then be presented to the state governor. So some of the parents who left Kuriga, which is a 2 hours drive to Kaduna town, were here with us since at the end of the day, or when they were talking, they said that the governor assured them that the children will come back unhurt, that they should go and come back in the morning and receive their children. So that's what the
government under my leadership, no child will be left behind. All of them will come back home by the grace of God, inshallah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We're happy about the reports that the children have been released, but then again, what are the conditions of the release? Why did the numbers were 287, why did the government not discount or refute the claims of it being 287 from the get-go? Why did we keep running with those numbers? How exactly were these children released? Did they pay for a ransom? Was there a negotiation? Did they have to do a prisoner exchange? How exactly were they released? And I mean, this is just a few days to the deadline, really. So they were disclosed, just I think 4 days to the deadline. So it's very scary, sad, but I mean, the silver lining there is that they've been released. So I'm happy for the parents, and I'm happy for the rest of Nigerians.
Yes, but again, nothing to celebrate. You can celebrate with the parents, that they have their kids back. But for me, this is not a win. Because first of all, not all of them have come back. And I did mention earlier that look at the faces of those kids. Those are, the faces of people that have been failed by their government. Rescuing them, just look at these people. Rescuing them, is nothing to celebrate. These are children that have been failed woefully by their government, for the fact that they were even kidnapped successfully in the first place. will their rescue end kidnapping in Kaduna State? I don't think so, because, this is not a situation where the people who carried out the kidnap have been arrested and they will be prosecuted, and everybody who maybe has such plans would learn and would ensure that they, we reduce kidnapping in Nigeria and Kaduna State generally. We don't hear those type of stories. And so, are we going to have another kidnap happen in the future? It's very likely. The thing that gives you the guts, and this is for me, a point to make, the thing that gives you the guts to take 300 people captive must be that you are very, very, very certain
confident that
you can actually get away with it, that you can take away 300 people, keep them in captivity for as long as you choose until there is some negotiation or whatnot. So it's a different case if you believe or you fear that, if you take this, that the government's going to come hard on you and you're going to lose your life. It's a little different. For you to take 300 people, or you have some confidence that you would, somehow, some way, maybe get some ransom or, some negotiation, and you will not be prosecuted, you will not lose your life. To plan the logistics that it requires to take away 300 people means also that that the government security structure will allow you to take away 300 people. That's a level of failure in security architecture that we're talking about here. So there's nothing to celebrate. And I've asked repeatedly that what has been different since, for example, 2012? What has been different since 2015? In what ways has, any of these state governments in northern Nigeria or here in the southern part of the country made any difference, with regards to security structure? How have they, now started to, address kidnapping? For example, when the thing happened in Russia a couple of days ago, when there was a terrorist attack in Russia, I saw a statement that, made me, think critically, that they said that the Russian government has, been able to continue to improve on its, its capabilities with war, but may not have built its capabilities with fighting internal terrorism. And so they might struggle a little bit if these attacks continue, because they need to, continue to engineer whatever structures that help them curtail the possibilities of terrorism within their country. And that made me start to think that, okay, what has the Nigerian government done since we started hearing about kidnapping, since, for example, 2015? I mean, what is the change in structure? What is the change in the way that security is and processes are done in Nigeria, in northern Nigeria, where these things have happened? Since Chibok, since Dapchi, like, what makes it possible for you to take away 300 people? And if you can still do it in 2024, so Chibok happened in what, in 2012 or 2014?
I've even lost.
If 10 years after,
Chibok was 2014.
If 10 years after, you can still take away 300 people, it means that absolutely nothing has changed with regards to security structure in 10 years.
And then,
that for me is a shame.
And the part that's worrisome is how very, flowing from what you've said, is how very retroactive we are. We're not really proactive. These things happen, and then that's when they take a move and say, okay, we're sending security personnel to the school. What happened to ensuring that there are security personnel in our schools, seeing that they are like a weak spot, a vulnerable spot, and a tool for manipulation by terrorists? How about we have the security personnel on ground to prevent these from happening? How is it that, you've really said it all.
So that wouldn't even work. Because what you're going to do now with that
would overburden our security.
You're going to militarize schools, which should be safe environments. Nobody wants to walk into a school and see armed policemen in every corner of the school. That's not a place that I would like my kid to go. And so that's not what we should do. I remember in the 90s when there was a high, level of robberies on the road, express road, that luxurious bus companies that used to do trips across the country then started moving around with armed men. You would see the front of the bus, you would see a man with an AK-47 rifle or a pump-action rifle in front of the luxurious bus. It used to be common back then in the 90s, and that was because of the increase in number of robbery attacks on the roads back then. But these aren't sustainable moves, and it's not even illogical. You can't even imagine that should be normal in a sane society. That to travel, you need somebody armed with an automatic rifle.
But that's our reality. So the way that I see it is that I don't think that the fight against insecurity. is one that can be won by the flashing of a wand. I think that it's a gradual process. We are not making much progress, in all fairness, but I think it's a gradual process. So whilst we are getting to that process where we would say that we have won the fight against insecurity, how about we secure our schools?
I don't know that there's anybody who will put his life at risk for 30 bandits attacking a school that you put one security man there.
No, it can't be one security.
Or how many then?
Well,
12, 25? How many schools?
Well, that's a conversation that we'll have for another day. Let's take the conversation from Kaduna now and head back to Senegal as we have updates that opposition leader Bassirou Diomaye Faye is in early lead and favorite to win Senegal's presidential election. Let's bring in Boye Kosa, public policy analyst, and he joins us virtually from Dakar, Senegal. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. Congratulations on what some would refer to as a seemingly hitch-free election. Talk to us about the process so far and how Senegalese people have reacted to these elections.
Well, I mean, if I can take you back a few months, a month ago, when the president decided to postpone the election, everyone thought he was trying to vie for a third term, and that was a way of doing it for himself. But a lot of people as well, like myself, believed in the voice of the president and choose to believe that he was doing it in good faith, and he, along with the Constitutional Council and other institutions, they've backtracked on that, and they've finally managed to organize good elections. I think there was a cabinet reshuffle as well, and there's a consensual figure that was named at the Ministry of the Home Ministry, which also helped to people to believe in the process, and that was justified. That faith was justified because the elections were organized, were well organized, and ended up ended up being stress-free and having like proper. They were properly organized and ended up being free and fair, and everyone is happy with the process. People voted massively. The turnout, although the official numbers didn't come out, the turnout is thought to be much bigger than the one in 2019, when it was 66% of the electoral college. So, people are overall very happy with the process and with the way it was organized, and you can see the scenes of joy outside Mr. Sonko and Mr. Bassirou Diomaye Faye's houses yesterday, and this also testifies to what people feel about this election, and they also are thought, or at least are poised to win with a landslide as well. It's believed that at least 60% of, or at least 57 or 58% of the votes went to them, and this is a huge win in Senegal term, especially with 19 candidates running. It's a huge number, and beating the party in power with such a landslide in the first round is unprecedented in Senegal.
Okay, talk a little bit more about Diomaye Faye, the opposition leader. Tell us about how he has emerged, what his profile was prior to the elections, and what this if he eventually goes on to win, what this means about President Macky Sall's government and what Senegalese people think.
So Mr. Diomaye Faye is he's a tax inspector. He's a popular figure. He was chosen actually by Mr. Sonko, who's actually the most popular and the leader of the two. But he was chosen some would say graciously, by Mr. Sonko to replace him when Sonko was deemed eligible, for the elections. So they chose him instead to represent the party. Mr. Sonko campaigned for him. They split the campaigning because they came out of prison where they had been for the past 9 months. They came out a week ago, and they lost. They started the election a week later than every other candidate, so they had time to catch up. But there were two candidates, they managed to split the campaigning venues and ended up touring the whole of Senegal, and that seemed to be decisive. Not that people needed most convincing. I mean, you could see in basically the scenes of joy, and it was palpable in the last few weeks and few months that this was going to happen. They were very popular. People genuinely loved them. And as you can see in the early estimations, that they seem to have won a landslide, and this is a testament of how popular they were. And I think had they been allowed to run, they would probably have won with a bigger margin. Now, in terms of what's happening, I mean, for them, I think they are actually very, they promise basically change. So I think the Senegalese people they really woke up to a new reality today. They've really woke up to genuine change. There were two visions opposing. Mr. Amadou Ba, there were 19 candidates, but I think Mr. Amadou Ba and Mr. Bassirou Diomaye Faye took about over 90% of the votes between themselves. So the others were pretty blown out of the water in this election. So Mr. Diomaye Faye, I think he represented a real change. With he's talking about leaving the CFA franc. He's talking about a different relationship with the Western countries, like especially France. He's talking about as well renegotiating some of the oil and gas contracts. He's talking about as well a different relationship with his ECOWAS partners. So all that is a reality that Senegal hasn't really known since the 1960s. So it's going to be interesting to see what the dynamic is here with countries in the region and countries traditional partners of Senegal.
Right. And now, just like you've mentioned, Diomaye Faye is in an early lead. And of the 19 candidates that ran for the elections, we've seen at least 5 share congratulatory messages for him. However, the current president, President Macky Sall, has said that there should be no false jumping into conclusions, if I may put it that way, stating that at the most this will lead to a runoff. Are there fears about how he will take this election, seeing as he's firmly behind Amadou Ba? Do you worry, do the people of Senegal worry about how this will, how he will take it if Diomaye Faye is announced winner?
No, I'm not worried. Macky Sall has said many times that his term ends on the 2nd of April, and that he intends to he doesn't have any plan to change that. And I think again, like I believe in the word of always believe in the word of a president. I think the function is such it's such an institution that I don't think, I think he will leave on the 2nd, and I think people usually have no worries at all. I mean, even the press are giving the same numbers, and the media are giving the same numbers that we've just discussed right now. in all the polling stations, you had various members of the opposition parties. You had members of the international communities observing, the counting of the votes, etc. So I don't think there is anywhere to run if the results are confirmed as being true. So I think it's going to be. They are just waiting probably for the official results, which will be confirmed later this week, before officially conceding to Mr. Fai. But if the results are confirmed, I don't think there is any way they can really backtrack from what's been decided. I think the now on the 2nd of April there will be a new president, and that president will most likely, if we believe the estimated count, it will be Mr. Basiru Diomaye Faye.
All right. Maeko Sarr, we'd like to speak with you again, hopefully when the results have been declared. Of course, and see what this means for Senegal going forward, what, expectations that we have, and also, just x-raying also, the population of youth voters, that maybe have changed the story of Senegal. We'll see. But thanks for joining us this morning. We'll be looking forward to having another conversation with you as quickly as possible.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome back, and now let's get straight into the newspapers, share with you the major stories making headlines across Nigeria this morning. And remember that you can be a part of our conversation. Simply call the numbers on your screen and share your thoughts with us on any of these stories that concerns you. We'll kick off this morning with this Nigeria newspapers, I believe. Should be on your screen in just a few seconds. Yes, it says there, how 137 kidnapped pupils were rescued, says Defense Headquarters. Teacher died during rescue mission. Pupils undergoing medical attention, says Kaduna Governor Sani. Henceforth, will ensure safety of our schools, says President Tinubu. And this is one of the reasons, before we, of course, introduce our guests this morning, one of the reasons that I said that there's nothing really to celebrate here, because that teacher has lost her, his or her life to the failure of the Nigerian government to protect these individuals. That teacher didn't deserve that. Neither did any of all these children deserve this mess that they're dealing with right now. Also in this Nigeria, prices of bread, gari, rice, and others increased by 25% in February, says Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. Abure has desecrated ideals that made us Labour Party, trade union veterans allege. SANU, NASU, NAATN warning strike resume today. Save Lagos and others from coastal areas, from sea rise, says Asiodu. These are the major stories that we're looking at this morning on this Nigerian newspapers. And we'd like to say good morning to our analyst this morning, Mr. Adotuo John. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning.
As always.
It's good to be here. Yeah.
How much celebration do you think we should have for the release of this 137 pupils?
Okay. 137 is a number that will naturally call for celebration if you have that number being rescued. But the reality of what you said is that what we have with terrorism today, we must make it very clear that it's not just a product of the failure of today. Yep. And that is why I have continually said that with my engagement with security forces, that fight against terror is not that of deadline. It's not something you want to defeat within a week. It's that of consistency and truth. Unfortunately, the truth in the process is missing because it has become a sector not only for the criminals, but for those people who are supposed to prevent the criminals from perpetrating their crime. For instance, we continue to talk year in, year out about the budget that goes for security. We continue to talk about the security vote for governors. We continue to talk about how much money we've expended on ammunitions and arms. And at the end of the day, you are not seeing the reflection, the true reflection on the fight against terror. Yep. So that tells you that there are people that are benefiting from the process. So corruption has crept into our security system, and local criminals have also brought franchise into national crime. Now, when you hear about kidnapping your community, don't think it's from north or headers here and there, because local criminals have also seen that it's a booming enterprise. They've also bought into it, and it's complicating the situation. So we must be happy, honestly, that we were able to get this number of kids home. But again, we must do more as a people to prevent this from happening in the future.
Okay, and then because I think, like I mentioned earlier, that the failures, of the Nigerian government that are evident in this story, are just, too glaring and too sad. And rest in peace to that teacher that lost their life, but they didn't deserve to die.
Yeah.
Because the Nigerian government failed to protect them and failed to protect those schools.
The highest form of hypocrisy is to wish people to rest well when they didn't die well, and it's something that I continue to lay emphasis on. But having said that, we must understand that we have got to a point in Nigeria today where even people in our local communities would rather believe in what bandits and criminals are saying than believing in what their government is saying. It's so bad that they believe the bandits could give them the better life that the government has failed to give them. That is why you see a crime happen. You see virtually every member of the hierarchy in the society are in support of the crime. They will not come out to say, oh, we are in support, but they hide criminals.
Yeah.
There's no how somebody will come into that state, pack 137 students, move from that state to Zamfara without people seeing them. It shows that because of our religious inclination, because of our ethnic affiliations and all of this, it shows that we are not really concerned about the communal group. We are concerned about our little interest here and there.
Yeah.
Because now the danger in all of this that a lot of people are not even seeing is what becomes of the children. Indoctrination is a strong thing. And anybody that wants to destroy people's life, when they come in the name of the Lord, it is very easy for them to have access to the heart. These people are coming in the name of the Lord. We don't know what they have told these kids. We don't know how far they have indoctrinated them. Indoctrination takes only 3 days in psychology of communication.
Yeah.
When you continue to lay emphasis on something, especially when you come in the name of the Lord to an African community. So we are not even saying, because I'm reading the governors to host them by 12 today and they will go through some therapy. I hope we understand the magnitude of what we are going to say to them to tactically de-radicalize them. Because people are not talking about radicalization now because they thought, oh, they were just there for. They are not there to eat rice and beans. In terms of abuse. So these are some of the things that I really want us to look, and I'm not trying to blame the government. I'm not trying to blame the sitting president at this moment. Though he came out to say we should not pity him, but I think he needs our pity. At this point in time now, the economy crashed in its own very eye. He thought that when he tried to equate the parallel market and the official market, that the dollar would crash. In his own very eye, he went up to close to 200. The president is 2000. The president is seemingly helpless. The economy, people are protesting every day. People are hijacking trucks. Security is an issue. So I think at this point in time, I'm not just even going to blame him, but he should remember that he should have understood all of these things before he signed to be our president. So any failure at any corner comes to his table. And like I used to say, that for Nigeria to grow, putting our trust and our hope in federal government is an ambition taken too far. We must concentrate on the state governors, on the state government, the basic things that they are supposed to do. We must make them do it so that we do not have a community where everything goes and they kidnap people at will and at wish.
Anyway, if we had seen a totally different way of doing things, maybe Nigerians will be more sympathetic. I don't think a lot of Nigerians would agree with, feeling sorry for, the president. There's no difference in the way things are being done. We're still hearing of budget padding. We're still hearing of, mismanagement of funds to build houses, for different people here and there. And so, and of course, the same knee-jerk reactions. Many people still argue that the whole subsidy is gone statement wasn't properly thought through. It wasn't
Absolutely
planned.
so.
And so the mess that eventually happened right after, You don't have to, we're not even being, honest with Nigerian people about whether we're paying subsidy or not. Because currently, with the current price of exchange rate of the dollar, then the selling petrol at 636.40 doesn't, just not adding up. So it's likely we're still paying subsidy.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move to other newspapers.
Yeah.
I think there's something on the Labour Party and the NLC that I hope we'll get into.
Yeah, I'm hoping we'll get into that shortly. But let's go to the Vanguard newspaper. On the front page of the Vanguard newspaper, the big story talks about Niger Delta leaders and stakeholders to federal government. It says, pull army out of Ogbonmwan, other Delta and Bayelsa communities. To relieve tense situation in the oil region, they want whoever killed or stole arms or ammunition from soldiers to quickly return them. Army urges cooperation of communities to recover stolen rifles as Robo youths appeal against OD experience in Ogbonmwan. IYC denies alleged plans to attack military facilities and locations. Oro forest ambush. Delta police nabbed 3 suspected killers of officers. And moving on to Kano, it says, Kano governor hails Dangote on palliatives to residents. Serap to Tinubu, emulate OT, obey court judgment, stopping pensions to ex-governors. Manufacturers, Forex losses rise 566% to 792 billion naira. Respite underway as naira strengthens. Edo gubernatorial elections. INEC ends nomination of candidates to unveil list today. Appoint foreign coach, face lawsuits, says Onyama. That's in sports. And at the top of the paper, we have Esther, a father, this is a bit blurry, Father Elias shocking revelations, or Father Allah's shocking revelations. In Benue, we had more schools workers than real ones. How 137 Kuriga children, teachers were rescued according to the defense headquarters. We'll come back to look at the details of this paper, but let's go on a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be exploring more with our guest here. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Before we went on the break, we're reviewing the Punch newspaper, and on the front page of the newspaper, the Vanguard, I beg your pardon, on the front page of the Vanguard, we took several stories, but I'd like you to react. We have Dr. Ojon here with us. I'd like you to react to the story of Serap to Tinubu saying, emulate OT, obey court judgment, stopping pensions to ex-governors.
Okay, before we went on the break, he was talking about whether people will agree to pity the president. One of the things that the president should have done or could have done to actually generate communal support was for him to have cut down the cost of governance. I think in our place they say when they don't want you in a community, don't try to sing a communal anthem. He knew that his becoming president was wrought with a lot of protests here and there. So the first thing he should have done was to have cut down heavily on the cost of governance. And when you talk about cost of governance, you talk about personnel costs. There's no how, it's not reasonable for somebody to be president or you're a governor, you earn that much money, you have access to that much resources. And after 4 or 8 years, you go back home and you're still earning pension. And it's so difficult. My father retired in 2012. Up to today, in the service of Ondo State, he has not got his gratuity. And the other time, I just told him to bring his letter. Let me just glance through. And I glanced through it, and this amount of money, ridiculously, is not even up to maybe my 1 year salary. So, and this is what you spend your entire 32 years working for government. And at the end of the day, you cannot have access to it. Yet, somebody comes and is in government for 4, 5 years or 8 years, and he goes back home, he earns pension for life. I want to pen to you this idea of pension. Maybe that will make you understand. Every 3 years, these people have access to 3 brand new vehicles. Before they leave office, they have access to a house. Most often, the governors, they have access to a house in their state and one in Abuja. For instance, if you have ever governed Lagos, they will build a house for you in Lagos, and they will build another one for you in Abuja. And every 3 years, they change your vehicles with 3 vehicles, depending on the state that you govern. Some of these states are in abject poverty, and their one-time governor or the other is living in opulence. It doesn't match. And this is what a lot of us expected President Tinubu to have done, but he didn't do that. And remember that one of his major contenders was Peter Obi of Labour Party. And the man, Oti, is a Labour Party governor. So he's trying to create an impression that maybe if Nigeria had voted, or if Peter Obi had become president, maybe he would have been a better president in terms of cutting costs than this man, that President Tinubu. And you remember before now we talked about Labour Party. I have sat as the state chairman of a party called Young Progressives Party. So there are a lot of intricacies involved in running a political party. Right. One of the things the main party often, or the main parties often do, is that they plant mold in your own political party. Once they see that, oh, your political party is doing well, maybe you could wrestle power from them, they plant more. And the essence of the more is to keep disrupting and destroying the progress of political party. Unfortunately, the constitution of virtually all political parties in Nigeria today empowers the world with the capacity to be able to suspend anyone. So once they want to create crisis in your party, they empower the world chairman and the world exco to suspend the national chairman. And once the national chairman is suspended from the world level, national chairman suspended from the world level, he loses legitimacy to continue to act as the national chairman. And before you know it, there are uproars here and there. Okay. So I suspect strongly that beyond what we see, beyond the intrigues and the political play within Labour Party, I suspect some other hands from outside of the party that have been dipped to actually destroy the party. It's unfortunate that they may not be able to do anything. I see that Labour Party will fall into more crisis even before the 2027
Okay,
election.
I want us to, we'll talk more about Labour Party, but I want to go back to the conversation about the refusal of payments of pension to ex-governors. Would it make for a valid argument that what this has done is that it will then ensure that those who come into power now try to amass so much wealth whilst in office, knowing that at the end of their tenure, they're not getting any more wealth?
Okay, getting pension, really, there's never been a data that suggests that getting pension after office has cut the level of our greed. There's not been a data to that. So we cannot say with utmost clarity that maybe that will complicate it. The reality of what we have is that if you are, and I'm going to cite my state as an example, there are budgets that you see, and there are unseen provisions that the people in the public don't get to see. One of them is the security vote. I know of a governor that I was close with that takes up to 400 to 500 million every month to tackle the issue of security. The question is, what are you using this money? And we are not even at the era of volatility of the naira against the dollar. We're talking about 2016, we're talking about 2014, why that still meant a whole lot. So they have access to this humongous amount of money. And because our attention as Nigerians has always been, what is the federal government doing? We do not pay attention to what our state governors are doing. Unfortunately, they have also successfully destroyed the local government system. Now, they say, oh, we are going to have election in local government. They don't get to have election. What do? Once the tenure of the sitting local government chairman and all the rest elapses, what they do is that they appoint a caretaker committee. But the caretaker members will never come out to tell you that they don't have access to their resources. So the governor, at the end of the day, I remember one funny story of a man who said, oh, he said it to Yoruba, me, I will not complain, no, I will not complain. And I was engaging him. Why will you not complain? He said the state government send 1 million naira to them every month as security vote. And what he does is that once he receives the 1 million, he corners it as his own part of the national cake. So he doesn't care whether they are doing anything, whether they are not doing anything. So the state governors have been able to successfully destroy the local government system. They pack their money into the pocket. And that's why you see there's always protests here and there once they talk about local government autonomy. They are really very angry because their eyes have not only seen their own money, their eyes have seen the local government money, and they see it as an opportunity to actually take money. So whether they have pension or not, there has never been any logical expression that shows that will cut down the level of our greed. Who will still will definitely stay.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
The phone lines are still active. You could join us. Have your thoughts on these stories. If your state government needs to also repeal same act, just like the Abia state government has done, let's know, why you believe so. Or maybe you think otherwise. We'd like to hear from you. Let's go to the Punch newspapers and see what we can find. Quick stories over there. It says the Kaduna abductions. Federal government plans school safety corps as 137 pupils regain freedom. School safety corps is no different from mine marshals. I mean, you know, it's basically creating new departments that are already inside security agencies to handle responsibilities that security agencies should have handled.
Yeah,
you know? The same way that they would, the Ministry of Mines and Steel has created mine marshals now by Dele Alake. You know, now they want to have school safety corps.
So let me tell you this very funny story. I won't mention the name of the state. So I was with an assistant commissioner of police in charge of administration in a state. So that particular day, they wanted to do inauguration of anti-kidnapping squad.
Yeah.
So all of them came into his office. And after they left, he turned to me and said, Doctor, do you think these people that you are seeing can actually prevent any kidnapping from happening? The reality is that the system itself does not even believe in itself. So when you talk about marshals here and there, it is a believability question. The system itself knows that this thing cannot work.
Yeah.
Because now, you're taking this section from NCDC. Have you seen the rifles that these guys carry? I mean the kidnappers. I mean the bandits. I mean all these criminals. And you want to create an arm within NCDC? The people that the Nigerian Army is finding difficult to tame? You think we are supposed to have soldiers all over our communities the same way we have it today? No. It is because of the failure of security system. See, I was doing public leadership in the UK. And everything they taught us in public leadership was about the UK police. You know why? Because the UK police is the symbol of their public service. Once your police fails in under any guise, your nation has failed. Your police, once people see your police and what comes to their mind is corruption, then your community is in trouble. Once people see your police and what they are seeing is inferiority or inability, your community is in trouble. But each time you go out and you see soldiers, officers of Nigerian Army here and there, it's a pointer to the fact that there's a question on your policing system. All of these things we are talking about should naturally be the duties of the police.
Yes.
Now, is the police not doing well? Police has the capacity to do well. But police has been suppressed over the years. I come from a place called Ojuala. It's inside the Riverine area. If a police constable dies in my community, his file will need to get to the IG table for approval before he gets pension. How do you expect such people to be able to serve Nigeria with all their strength? In a community of over 200 million people, we are struggling to have 300,000, 400,000 police personnel. Out of this number, about 150 are with VIPs.
Yes.
I look at in fairness to them, I look at some of our singers, and the question I always ask them is that, what have you achieved in your life? That's the question. I look at some of them and say, what have you achieved in your life to deserve this number of police that are following you?
I said I saw some yesterday. I want to believe that the person is an entertainer.
It is annoying. It is annoying when you reduce the psyche of the police people when they go to guard some of these charlatans. What has been their contribution? And it's not limited to our entertainers.
Yes,
it's
because
limited
we have VIPs
to some politicians that we are supposed to be sitting and be questioning and be asking them, what have you added to your community?
Yeah.
It's a shame. I started a program called Leadership for Student Initiative, where we're training young people in leadership. I get to some of these public schools. I cannot believe my eye. The one I went to on Monday that I was supposed to be here, the hall was practically, you will be seeing high heavens. What have you achieved? What have you added to this community that you are deserving of a policeman? But this is how we have reduced our police system. Because also, this system of dashing police to VIP is also a way of making money for the police system. But why have we reduced ourselves to this level? That it is VIP that will be paying to support us to police our community. In majority of these police stations that you see, they say the state government will cut, what they call that on the day of inauguration?
Ribbon.
We cut ribbon. Oh, fantastic. We have supported the police. How do they fuel their vehicles? Nobody cares about it. And to be able to meet up with this basic demand, they put their anger, wrongfully so, on the people that they are supposed to be guarding. So it's so sad that we are at this level, and we must continue to talk about this thing truthfully in a patriotic manner so that the eyes of people in authorities continue to be open. See, when you say there's no job in Nigeria, and I just look at, when people say there are no jobs, I just close my eyes to look at the opportunities that we can have to give ourselves job. Policing is one big opportunity that we can have to give ourselves job. Because when you look at it, when you reduce the money that the politician takes home, when you reduce the access of the politician to the resource that is not legally entitled to, you create more avenue for fund to be able to fund critical sector, and policing is one of them. You get people into your police system in every community. In fact, every community in Nigeria, every polling unit should have at least 5 people representing them in the police system. But what will you hear? There will not be money to pay them. But you and I know that there are illegal monies going into wrong pockets every day. The man that left, in fairness, as CBN governor, did it to a point, and this case, I don't want to be subjudicial this morning. You heard what is happening in the court, that even the signature of the president was forged. Who else is safe? If you can forge the signature of your president, what else are we going to talk about?
Allegedly forged. All right. Dr. John, thank you very much for stopping by. Always interesting, as always, hearing your thoughts on these stories. Good to see you again.
Yeah. Thank you for having
me. All right. Of course, the conversations continue this morning. Stay with us. After the short break, we continue with Breakfast Central. Welcome again to Breakfast Central. Nigeria's Minister of Solid Mineral Development, Dele Alake, unveiled recently a 2,200-strong mine marshals with a charge to smoke out illegal miners and flouters of the nation's mining laws. Formally receiving the marshals drawn from the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, from the Commandant General Abubakar Aldi, representing the Minister of Interior, Honorable Olubunmi Tunjojo, Alake charged the new operatives to stem theft and all nefarious activities around the nation's mineral resources.
Concerning the commissioning, here's what we know. There are ongoing talks with the Ministry of Police Affairs to boost the marshals with more men. With a command structure spread across the 36 states and the FCT, the Mines Marshal will have their command and control domiciled in the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development, MSMD, with an initial 60 operatives deployed in each state and the FCT. However, there have been mixed reactions concerning this development as questions arise. Should the NSCDC have been used instead of forming a new security agency, and why are we having a duplication and sub-agencies? To make this clearer, we have joining us Fred Nzako. He's a lawyer and development economist. Good morning and thank you for joining us. And the first question will, of course, be what your thoughts are regarding the decision to form this new organization. Some have said that this is something that the NSCDC should have been able to carry out by itself, and that there was really no need to form the miners' corps. I'd like to know what your thoughts are on this.
Well, I do not think that a new organization is being formed. The one you call miners' corps. I think it is an elite corps drafted and drawn from Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps. Just like you have SWAT in the police, that used to be SARS, just like you have even the one you call Agric Corps to secure the forest and the agric farmlands. And they still operate under the various organizations that are statutorily established by law. So the Civil Defense Corps is a creation of law that's really established by National Assembly via the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Law Act of 2007. So this is just an elite corps, so to speak, that will still operate under the command of the Civil Defense Corps. It may have a quasi autonomy or a kind of semi-autonomy to be able to carry out their operations and their functions most effectively, but they still will be covered by the Establishment Act that covers Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps. So it may be wrong to say a new corps is being established. It will also be wrong to say that it is an entirely new outfit. It is an outfit, an elite outfit within the rank of the National Security and Civil Defense Corps.
Yeah, I think the challenges that some people are having here is, is the need or the necessity for, the creation, or rather of this mine marshals. It's not a new corps, but of course it's a tactical group, like you've mentioned, SWAT, or SARS, back then. What was the need for, what is the need really for creating them if the NSCDC itself has already been created to protect government facilities? I mean, if you look at the NSCD Act of 2007, it grants them, under direct supervision of the Ministry of Interior, the powers to maintain 24-hour surveillance over public infrastructure, sites, and projects of the federal government, state, and local government. And of course, give them powers to arrest, investigate, and hand over to the police for further investigation, criminals and what suspects. So why then do we have to, give a new set, within the NSCDC, a new name called mine marshals, when that's already their responsibility?
All intents and purposes, I think government intends to give this corps, or rather this marshals, strategic training different from the regular training others receive. Give them strategic equipment, give them everything that they will require to be able to carry out their duties, especially specialized duties of securing the mine sites, driving away illegal miners, and protecting Nigerian solid mineral resources. So more or less, the whole idea is to give them a quasi-autonomy that will help to remove bureaucratic bottlenecks that may endanger their activities because of the seemingly importance that the government has attached to these solid minerals. Recall that Nigeria, as a blessed country, blessed with huge solid mineral resources, should not allow those resources to be illegally mined and illegally exploited. Because even the crude resources that we have in the oil and gas is gradually, not only this paradigm shift is going away from oil and gas resources, but also the deposit is gradually depleted. So it is important that we secure for the future our solid minerals, or even our present and the future resources. So it will be very important that the government does not allow the solid minerals to be wasted, to be stolen, and to be illegally mined.
Well, Mr. Zako, I don't think anybody...
That underscores the need to set up a special corps within the NSDC, a special marshal, to secure this very important resource sector of the country.
I don't, again, and nobody is belittling the importance of securing Nigeria's solid minerals and mineral resources. That doesn't need to be said. What many people are questioning is the importance, really, of setting up mine marshals. And if we ask ourselves, really, can we afford this at this time? Do we have enough men within the NSCDC for the functions of the NSCDC at first? For us to now be creating a different sect, within the NSCDC, the answer may not be very positive. And so what is the importance really of mine marshals? And also, does the Nigerian government have proper statistics detailing the level of criminal activity that has gone on in that sector that needs to be checked? That, that of course necessitated the emergence or the formation of this sect. And also, are they going to be just with solid minerals? Are they going to be also, protecting other forms of mineral resources Nigeria has, including oil and gas, including gold? Like there's too many questions that are left unanswered with just the sudden creation of mine marshals. I would also mention one thing. I know we're almost out of time. The Minister Dela Lake mentioned that they are going to be reporting, according to his message, they're going to be reporting to the ministry. The NSCDC is already, and of course they should, according to what the law says, report only to the NSCDC and Ministry of Interior, not to the Minister of Solid Minerals Development.
Well, there is your last question, or rather, second to last question, has lent credence to the need for the establishment of this special marshal, so to speak, because when the regular establishment is not delivering what was expected. Government will look into the fact that there may be need for a special marshal. Recall that the origin of Federal Road Safety Corps was as a result of the fact that the traffic section of the police was unable to deliver the expectations of the people. That led to the establishment of Federal Road Safety Corps. The same thing with the establishment of EFCC, when the regular police could not deliver on some of the expectations of the people, the EFCC had to be established, even though we had an anti-fraud section of the police and even special fraud unit. What it simply says, like you said, that is that the question is whether the NSCDC has enough men. When you now take away the mine marshal, of course, if they don't have enough men, they will recruit. There are so many Nigerians who are yearning to be employed, many youths who are yearning to be employed. And of course, we said that those security agencies will need to employ more people, more hands, train them to be able to do many functions. Recall that the NSCDC has been given specific and definite functions, not only to regulate the private security guards, but also to ensure that there is safety and security of government assets and infrastructure. Of course, the Amendment Act has given them the authority and the power to not only to arrest, but also to prosecute. So they don't need to even hand over those that were arrested to the police for prosecution, except where the issues are the ones that fall under the purview of the police. So recall that initially they were not carrying arms, they were not authorized to bear arms, but with the amendment, they were now authorized to bear arms. And this special corps can be said to be an elite corps that will take care of the mine in Nigeria. Yes, there is a definite question about the reportage, the line of authority and duty, because they are, by the Establishment Act, supposed to be under the Ministry of Interior. But then this particular elite corps will now be an interface between the Ministry of Interior and the Ministry of Mines. So that means that it's the state government that they are serving, in which case there has to be a synergy, an interface, very critical interface between the Ministry of Interior, which is their parent ministry, and the Ministry of Solid Minerals, which is the one benefiting from their operations. And such synergy does not hurt. It still does not take away or mutilate the provisions of the law. The law is still there, but the law does not say that they should not interact with the other ministry. Just like the police will synergize with the army, even though they are under different ministries. So I think that there is no problem with across the board.
Yeah, but I mean, but you don't hear
the interface.
Yeah, but you don't hear the police reporting to any other person except to police hierarchy and of course to the Ministry of Interior. Do you expect that
to the police hierarchy? The soldiers will report to the military hierarchy.
Exactly.
In this particular one, it is not like, I think the use of the word reporting is a wrong choice of semantics. If you use the word reporting in the strict sense of it, it will be misplaced. But they have to advise. The right word should be advise the Ministry of Solid Minerals, but the reporting line should be the Ministry of Interior. And of course,
again,
what is important is that the chief executive of the corps is the one that will always interact with the leaders in the Solid Mineral Ministry.
Well, it just doesn't. It still looks a little off. And again, with regards duplication of responsibilities, you may mention before that it was because there was inadequacy within the police, and that with regards financial crimes, that was the reason behind the creation of the EFCC and the ICPC. Same thing with the Federal Road Safety Corps. And so if you've not been able to build your NSCDC to tackle the responsibility that was created for in the first place, why do you think that creating a separate group within that same NSCDC would now suddenly have superpowers enough to tackle those responsibilities? If the police already has its financial crimes investigations. Say that again, please.
The whole idea is to give them specialized training, is to give them specialized as a tactical marshal within the NSCDC. Their training will be specialized training because some of them who did not have any idea or experience in mining and in geophysics and in geology, they will be given that specialized training that they need so that they will be very, very relevant to their field. Drafting men from guarding other infrastructure that are not related to mining and immediately sending them to mining, they may not fit in. So that is the whole essence of this specialized marshal. They are still within the NSTDC, and I do not think there's anything untoward. It does not create extra bureaucracy, neither does it create an extra burden on the finances of government. Rather, it now streamlines their responsibilities and ensure that they deliver on this very important responsibility.
So what happened? Anyway, we need to go. We're out of time. I was going to say what happens if every other minister decides that they also need their own special task force, and so they now create a new group, within the NSCDC again, to tackle waterways, and then
if it is necessary, there's nothing wrong with creating such corps.
All right. Good luck. Thank you very much, Fred Nzako. Always interested speaking with you. We'd like to see you again pretty soon.
Many thanks.
This morning on Which Way Nigeria, I am once again asking about KPIs, key performance indicators, that our government is setting for itself and for its ministers. Last week, I asked the question, what are the indicators with which our government uses to score itself on its plans and promises to Nigerians? What does President Tinubu use in scoring his different, newly appointed ministers? And what time frames, has he maybe set for all of them? What possible excuses will they present to the Nigerian people if and when they finish 4 years with no significant improvement in their ministries? And one of the reactions that I got, sometime last week on social media, very many people were not very expectant to see anything different. Some even mentioned how bold I am to expect anything or expect KPIs from a president that said during the campaign that one thinks in our statistics we go chop. If you remember correctly, let's quickly share that with you. From the campaign season.
That one, I think na statistic we go chop. A lie with arithmetic that no Indian can solve it.
Well, in fairness, the person on social media did have a point. What do you expect from the person who says he thinks in our statistics we go chop? Now, are we being naive or ignorant or swimming in self-deception to expect anything like KPIs and timelines for development from such a government? The issue here isn't just the acceptance that we may, have once again found ourselves in a situation where government has no actual plans for development, neither will they ensure that all those appointed get to work and deliver within set timelines. For me, it's another moment to remind Nigerians about the scary fact about time and how it passes. 1 minute, we're at May 29th, inauguration of a new government, and the next, we're 3 years gone into that government, and the conversations are about another election. But in Nigerian context, those 3 years, for example, can seem like 3 hours because so much happening at the same time, while at the same time, nothing is happening. It's been about 10 months since the inauguration, and in the exact same way time passes in Nigeria, we've just been floating around. We've just been surviving as citizens, observing the actions of government, having political arguments, dealing with issues that are very common to the Nigerian people, like murder, kidnapping of citizens, soldiers getting killed, corruption allegations, budget padding, high cost of living, failing government policies, new press releases from government officials every other day. And just like that, it's 10 months gone. We blink twice again and it's 2 years gone. And next thing you know, it's the end of the tenure. And you just realize that absolutely nothing has changed for the better in 4 years. And that's why I mentioned KPIs and timelines, because time doesn't wait for the Nigerian government to sit up. It just keeps passing. A month turns into a year, and that turns into a tenure. So this morning, let my voice be a reminder that we're 10 months gone, and we still don't seem to have a clear picture of where we're headed. It may even seem like a good time to ask ourselves, When would be a great time to ask for a result sheet from the government? 1 year after inauguration? 2 years? Maybe 4 years later? For those who say things like, oh, they're just getting into office, give them time. How much time would you recommend that we give the government? And at what point would you be honest with yourself and say, well, maybe we've given them enough time and there's really nothing more to expect from these people? Nigerians are very anxious. Nigerians don't have time. No. Mr. President, of course, doesn't have a magic wand. No one expects that he has a magic wand to turn things around in a week, but Nigerians would like to see something positive and reassuring, no matter how small. Good morning, Nigerians.
Now we've come to the end of today's show. We do hope that all that we've been able to discuss, we start to see positive results regarding especially which way Nigeria, the questions that are being asked, our ministers will rise to the occasion. And like we say here in Nigeria, show working. It's been a good show. And we thank you very much for joining us. Thank you to all our guests who joined us physically and virtually. We'll be back again same time tomorrow from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. West African time. I'm Olive Emodi.
And I'm Osarogie Ogbonmwan. See you tomorrow.